In the UFC, it's supposed to be warrior versus warrior, bitter rivals locked in a cage, ready to do whatever it takes to win. The stare-downs are intense, the trash talk gets personal, and the finishes can be brutal. It's a world built on conflict, where you forge your legacy by destroying the person standing across from you. But what if I told you that some of the most heated rivalries are just a smokescreen? That behind the scenes, some sworn enemies are actually the best of friends? Today, we're exposing the UFC's most unexpected bromances and revealing the stories you were never meant to see. We're going beyond the octagon to uncover the secret bonds between fighters who might trade punches one night and share a laugh the next, proving that sometimes the ties of friendship are stronger than any title. There's probably no more chaotic and unlikely friendship in modern MMA than the one between Khamzat Chimaev and Darren Till. On the surface, it makes zero sense. You've got Chimaev, the silent, terrifying monster from Chechnya who stormed the UFC promising to smash everybody. He was a mystery, an unstoppable force with a chilling intensity. Then you've got Darren Till, the loud-mouthed, charismatic scouser from Liverpool, known as much for his sharp wit as his lethal striking. One is a devout Muslim, the other is the walking, talking embodiment of British cheek. Yet, against all odds, these two polar opposites formed a bond that completely captivated the MMA world. It started with some DMs, a back and forth that could have easily led to a fight. Instead, it led to an invitation. Chimaev asked Till to come train in Sweden, and just like that, the Smesh Bros were born. Suddenly, Chimaev's mystique was paired with Till's comedy. We saw them training, sure, but we also saw them goofing around in cars, with Till teaching Chimaev Scouse slang and Chimaev playing the stoic straight man to Till's endless jokes. They started churning out viral videos and doing joint interviews, becoming inseparable. Chimaev, the man who seemed to have no friends, only targets, had found a brother. He even said of Till, "I love that guy. I am happy that I met that guy in my life." For a while, Till's infectious personality seemed to pull back the curtain on the man behind the monster, showing a lighter side to Chimaev nobody knew existed. However, like many intense flames, this one seemed to cool down. After Chimaev's razor-close war with Gilbert Burns, a fight some felt he was dragged into by abandoning his usual style, people started to question if the friendship was a distraction. Chimaev himself later suggested Till might have been a bad influence on his focus, and their public appearances together dwindled. While they've both said they're still friends, the white-hot intensity of the Smesh Brothers era has passed, leaving behind a fascinating chapter about how even the most feared fighter can be changed by an unexpected bond. Before Jon Jones was the GOAT, he was a young, explosive prodigy at the famed Jackson Wink MMA Academy, and there to greet him was a man who would become his mentor, his brother, and eventually his most bitter rival, Rashad Evans. Rashad, a former light heavyweight champ himself, took the young Jones under his wing. They weren't just teammates, they were like brothers. They trained together, rose through the ranks together, and made a pact they would never ever fight each other. That bond was so strong that when Rashad got injured and had to pull out of his title fight, he gave the UFC his blessing to let Jones replace him. He expected his friend to win the belt, and he did. That should have been a moment of shared victory. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. The fracture came from a single interview. When asked if he'd ever fight Rashad, Jones, now the champion, broke their pact and said he would if the UFC wanted it. For Rashad, this was the ultimate betrayal. He had mentored Jones, supported him, and even handed him his own title shot, only to be cast aside. The fallout was nuclear. Rashad left the gym he considered family, feeling betrayed by Jones and the coaches who he felt sided with the new champ. The feud that followed was one of the most personal and emotionally charged in UFC history. For months, they traded venomous insults. Rashad called Jones fake and arrogant, while Jones dismissed Rashad as bitter and jealous. When they finally met at UFC 145, it was more than a fight. It was the painful, public divorce of a brotherhood. Jones won by decision, but the emotional toll was immense. Years later, while the animosity has softened, the story of Jones and Evans remains the ultimate cautionary tale in MMA, a heartbreaking example of how fame and gold can turn brothers into enemies. For years, Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns were key parts of each other's success. As two of the top talents at Sanford MMA, they pushed each other in the gym every single day. With over 200 sparring sessions between them, Usman, the dominant wrestler, sharpened his skills against Burns, a world-class jiu-jitsu ace. Burns, in turn, elevated his game by training with the man who would become the era's most dominant welterweight champion. Their relationship was built on respect and the shared grind. Burns was in Usman's corner for fights, and Usman helped Burns prepare for his own. They were team captains, leaders setting the standard. It was a partnership that got incredible results. But in MMA, a successful partnership can lead to an impossible choice. As both men climbed the welterweight ranks, a collision felt inevitable. When Burns earned his shot at the title, it was against his longtime friend. The build-up was tense but respectful. It was weird, as Burns admitted, to call out a man he liked so much. The question was, how do you fight a man whose every move you know? The fight at UFC 258 was dramatic. Burns dropped Usman early and almost finished him. But Usman, showing true championship grit, recovered and finished Burns in the third round. The aftermath was pure emotion. Burns was devastated, openly weeping in the center of the octagon. Usman, despite his victory, knelt beside his fallen friend, and the two shared a private, emotional embrace that said everything about their shared history. While Burns later clarified they were more like close colleagues than best friends, the respect was undeniable. They have since mended fences, proving that the fire of a title fight doesn't have to destroy a bond forged in respect. In a sport filled with broken friendships, the bond between Daniel Cormier and Khabib Nurmagomedov is a pillar of loyalty. Their story began at the American Kickboxing Academy, a gym known for making legends. When Khabib first arrived from Dagestan, he was a quiet kid who barely spoke English. Cormier, a former Olympian and future two-division champ, was already a leader in the gym. What blossomed was a mentor-mentee relationship that quickly became something much deeper. DC, the cheerful, outspoken American captain, and Khabib, the quiet, stoic Dagestani, became inseparable. They trained together, bled together, and formed a bond that went beyond culture. Cormier guided Khabib, and Khabib pushed Cormier. They became the heart and soul of AKA, with DC acting as the big brother to Khabib's quiet dominance. Their friendship is defined by a fierce loyalty, especially from Khabib. Cormier has one of the biggest rivalries in sports history with Jon Jones. Out of respect for DC, Khabib has always kept his distance from Jones, saying that because DC doesn't like him, he won't either. This loyalty goes both ways. When Cormier was once seen being friendly with Khabib's nemesis, Conor McGregor, Khabib let his disappointment be known. It wasn't about anger, but principle. In their world, some lines are never crossed. Their interactions are a mix of hilarious jokes and genuine affection, with DC mocking Khabib's English and Khabib joking about DC's love for cake. It feels real and lived in, a sharp contrast to the manufactured drama common in the sport. They celebrate each other's victories as their own and support each other through everything. Their bond shows that in the ruthless world of MMA, the most valuable prize isn't a gold belt, but a friendship that can withstand anything. From the tragic collapse of a brotherhood to the unbreakable loyalty between two champions, the UFC is full of hidden relationships. These stories prove that behind the warrior, personas are real people, forging connections in one of the most demanding sports on earth. The lines between friend and foe can blur in an instant, but the bonds they form in the gym and behind the curtain are as real as any punch thrown in the cage. Which of these friendships surprised you the most? Are there any other unexpected UFC bromances you think we should talk about? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look inside the Octagon, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the world of mixed martial arts. Thanks for watching.